Cars 2 is the worst animated movie in history, said the guy next to you. Cars 2 is fine. I think it gets a bit too much flack. I'm not gonna say it's this gem or anything, but I don't think Cars 2 is as bad as everyone says it is. Yeah, sure, Mater is pretty annoying, but I like the whole traveling around the world aspect. It'd just be better if they focus more on that rather than James Bond. Either way, no matter your thoughts, today we're gonna be looking at Cars 2, the video game. And if you can believe it, the Cars franchise has actually had a big video game career. Sure, all 3 movies got a licensed game, but not only is the first game semi-open world, but there are a bunch of other Cars games as well that are just by themselves and have no connection to anything. Pretty impressive, honestly, but we're not talking about any of those today because I'm only under contractual obligation to talk about Cars 2. So let's get this show on the road. You get it? Cause it's Cars? So is Cars 2 just as bad as the movie? Is it just a decent racer? Or does it actually compete with the likes of Mario Kart, the Sonic racing games, and Crash Team Racing, and most importantly, Ryan's? We first boot up the game and are treated to an opening cutscene where we're on the oil rig from the beginning of the movie. Yeah, remember that? How the movie was set around a conspiracy to move everyone back to oil? Cars 2 was nuts. Anyway, it seems the game takes place after the movie. I am getting so tired of cinematic universes. And the game takes place in a simulation, which is why lore-wise you can go pretty much anywhere. That's right, folks, Disney Interactive cares more about lore even more than Avalanche Software's bankruptcy. So after making a bunch of lemons crash into each other, which, by the way, can I just say that Finn McMissile has the highest kill count in Cars 2 because he literally blows up an entire fleet of lemons in the opening scene? Cars 2 is wild! Anyway, Mater brings in more characters from the movie and starts the game, and I have to ask, aren't these agents? Do they just use these simulations for fun like this? Well, anyway, now that the game has started, we now have a full section of all the game's content, and I won't lie, there's a ton here, even including a single-player campaign, though don't get too excited, it's pretty much just a collection of missions with a cutscene every now and then that don't really amount to much. The whole plot is just a very stretched out way of stopping Professor Z. What's cool though, is that you don't need to play all the missions to advance to the next level. It works on a skill point system that advances to certain levels, so if there's a mission you don't like, you can probably skip it if you want. Though you do have to at least bronze all of them to get the final cutscene, which to be honest, you're not really missing much if you don't get. It is cool though. I mean, racing games are just fun, mindless games to play when you're playing single player, so there's not really a reason why you shouldn't do all of them at some point in your life. It's multiplayer where the bloodbath starts. So let's get on some Xbox Live and let's show Xpool the true Cars 2 gamer. There's no online play? No online play? In 2011? Especially on the Xbox 360 where Xbox just had a complete fetish for Xbox Live. This is pretty inexcusable. I mean, some of the greatest multiplayer games of all time are a huge success because of it. I mean, here, look at the science. Lincoln didn't have online play. And you know what they did do? Well, it looks like we're on our own for this one, but thankfully enough, we do have a lot of content to go ahead and chew on. First of all, the character roster is pretty big, including a lot of characters with a big amount of DLC. Not only do you have Lightning, Mater, Finn McMissile, Holly Shiftwell, etc., but you also have almost all of the racers from the All in All race, including Jeff Corvette. There's also a few of the Lemon characters from the movie you can play as well. I mean, I guess Disney Interactive looked at Cars 2 and said, well, when life gives you lemons! And like I said, there is DLC on top of the base roster, and there's a Radiator Springs pack that doesn't include Sally. Isn't that like if they did a Sonic Unleashed pack for Team Sonic Racing and didn't include Professor Pickle? So while the roster is pretty big, including the DLC, a lot of them pull the Mario Kart shtick of using skins to bump up the roster, which I am not a fan of, even in Mario Kart. Daredevil Lightning McQueen is fun and all, but he's still Lightning McFucking Queen. I really should have seen who was in the room before I made that joke. So yeah, they added the Queen, the Queen of England, to Cars 2, the game, because she was in the final act of the movie. However, she is only playable in race mode, because the rest are battle modes, and she is just straight up not playable in any of the Chrome missions, since it's mostly battle modes anyway. What, the Queen can't pack heat? I understand the idea that maybe it could be seen as offensive to be shooting the Queen of England in Cars 2, the game, but it's just a simulation? I don't know, this just feels like some very weird censorship to me personally, considering the fact that you could play battle mode with the race cars based off of real people, yet you can shoot them just fine. But it's more so just funny to me, considering they censored this, but they killed Bruce Campbell in the movie. Which, by the way, He's in this game. Yeah, if you can believe it, Cars 2 the game actually got a lot of the voice actors to reprise their roles. Mater is voiced by Larry the Cable Guy, they got Jeff Gordon for Jeff Corvette, and many others. Unfortunately, they couldn't get everyone, so a few of them are sound-alikes, but I'll be damned if they're good sound-alikes. In the movie, Finn McMissile is voiced by Michael Caine, while in the game he's voiced by Martin Jarvis. But I think the most impressive, in my opinion, is Keith Ferguson, who does a pretty good Owen Wilson. And it's actually really funny about it is that if you watch the Cars show instead of the movies, you're gonna feel right at home with Keith Ferguson, because he voiced Lightning in all the shows as well. You remember the Hiccups one? I don't know, I just remember that one. This is totally off script. They did get back Thomas Kretschmann to do Professor Z, but to be completely honest, I think they got him right before his lunch break.
You're too late. I've intercepted this weapon shipment, and now it is mine to do with as I please. If you quit now, you may survive.
Oh no, look who it is! I'm so frightened!
Still a notable lineup of VAs, but what about the presentation? I'd say it's decent. I know this was Xbox 360, but I feel like the game could run at a slightly higher resolution than this, and the colors don't feel very vibrant to me. Not bad, but not amazing either. But animation-wise, I think it's great. I think it translates the animation in the movies pretty damn well, especially with the cutscenes. They can be a little stiff in terms of choreography, which can be pretty bad because when you have a character that moves like 10% of their body, it can look a little boring. But in terms of the animation quality itself, I think it's pretty good. Alright, let's get into the gameplay. And Cars 2 does have a pretty good amount of content other than just characters. Its tracks are pretty good with plenty of shortcuts and plenty of alternative paths you can take just to get to the slight edge you need to win the race. It helps that the tracks aren't barred that much by invisible walls. So if there's a curve around a hill, for example, odds are if you have a speed boost, you can jump right over it if you have a speed boost. There's a lot of stages like that. In my opinion, one of the London tracks being the best one. I played this stage a few times and kept noticing alternative pathways. Honestly, some of these stages are some of the best I played in kart racing simply because of how much you can shortcut to get the advantage. Of course, Mario Kart has track designs like this too, but Cars 2 is a little bit better. See, here, I'll boot up the first stage and let's see what surprises me. Oh my god. It was the first level? Motherfucker, John Rise went on his Xbox 360, played the first level, and said, "Mom, that one." Well, while we're on the soundtrack, let's talk about that. And yeah, it's actually really good. It goes way too hard for a racing game like this. There's of course some flat out rock tracks like Unknown Race. There's some more groovier tracks like Airport Race and Radiator Springs. And there's even some tracks that are in line with the culture of the track setting. My favorite being the Italy race one. Great stuff. What's even greater about this soundtrack is that the soundtrack is rendered out in layers so that the further you are in the race, more of the instruments pour in, making it more exciting and tense for the final lap. Most of the time with Mario Kart and Team Sonic Racing, they would just speed up the track, which is nice, but I much prefer this. This is an incredible touch. But all of this is a moot point if the gameplay isn't fun. So is it? Is the Pope Mobile Catholic? Yes, the Pope is in Cars 2, which means there is at least a belief of a Jesus Chrysler. Cars 2 is insane. Anyway, yeah, Cars 2's controls I'd say are a mix between Mario Kart 8 and Team Sonic Racing, but mostly like Team Sonic Racing in terms of weight. And you can even do tricks just like Team Sonic Racing, though to be completely honest, it's kind of stiff, therefore it doesn't feel great. But there are a couple of things added that makes it fresh and new. First of all, you can jump at any time during the race, branching out opportunities for even more shortcuts, and you can even bump into opponents to get them out of the way. However, there are also added mechanics to the base formula. It's not just a straight Mario Kart clone. In Mario Kart and TSR, you can drift to get a boost. The longer you hold the drift, the stronger the boost is, making you want to keep the drift going for as long as possible. And I prefer this in TSR because you can swap directions, making the drift go even longer. The only downside is that you go slower and your handling is worse. However, in this game, while that does work, you get very little unless you drift on these panels along the track or drive on two wheels throughout these parts. If you want a boost, your best bet is driving backwards with the flick of the right analog stick. This does make you drive slightly slower, but your boost meter fills up pretty quickly, and you're going to want to fill up that boost to the max, because if you can do that, you can get in the zone by tapping the X button twice, and you can boost for a really long time and are invincible. This is crucial to winning the races. However, with this mechanic, it can be a lot easier to ram into a wall. Luckily, because you're an actual car, if you're drifting before you hit the wall, you can push yourself off of it and bounce right back into the race. If you also want to boost, you can of course pick up all-in-all canisters throughout the race. Wait, all-in-all? The things the villains use? Isn't that like making an anti-drug game and using cocaine as health pickups? Anyway, with all these mechanics, you can get a lot of flow and it just mends together so nicely, making this a really fun racing experience. But this is just the racing mode. Cars 2, the video game, actually includes a lot of battle modes that the Queen is not playable in, so what's the point? But of course you have Race, which is just racing with no weapons or items. Battle mode is races with weapons and items. Hunter is a mode where you can shoot up a bunch of lemons to keep the time going for as long as you can. Survival, where you can keep your shields up so Professor Z doesn't fire a laser at you. And the other modes are multiplayer, and I have no friends. That's honestly a lot of modes. I mean, sure, technically race and battle race are the same thing with items turned off, but the other modes seem genuinely pretty fun. And you play pretty much all the single player ones in Chrome missions, which you can marathon with squad series. And actually, you can create your own squad series. You know how in Mario Kart and TSR you have Grand Prix? Well, Cars 2, you actually have a similar thing, but it's squad series where you can select a mode, a track, and can marathon them. That honestly is a really cool feature, if I cared about battle mode. Yeah, all this is cool and all, but I don't really care about battle mode even in Mario Kart. I know, anyway, I think that's about it. Cars 2 is one of the best racing games with genuine competition with big leagues like Mario Kart, Sonic, and Crash. I don't think he beats any of them, but there are some things I like about Cars 2 more than some of the others, and in a turnaround, it's actually a lot better than the sequel, Cars 3 Driven to Win, on modern platforms. As weird as this is gonna sound, Cars 3 is pretty much just Cars 2 Lite, with less features and slightly less polished gameplay, and a worse roster. However, if you have a PS4 or 5 or Switch, it'll suffice your needs just fine. Even Sally is playable in this version, after being omitted from Cars 2 for some strange reason. If you're on Xbox, I'd say just go ahead and get Cars 2. It's backwards compatible with the One and Series systems, and it's a far more complete experience. However, if you're stuck with Cars 3, it's still a good game, just not as complete. Now, what if you're on PC? Well, unfortunately, there is no PC version of Cars 3 and none of Cars 2. That's the reason I played on Xbox and had to deal with 720p 30 FPS game. Wait, there is a version of Cars 2 on PC? Well, what the fuck am I playing this for? Let's play on PC with 60 FPS. What the fuck is this? Cars 2 Ultimate brought to you by Blind Squirrel Games? Oh sure, it runs in 1080p 60 FPS, but that doesn't look good if it looks like literal puke. Well, actually, there is a reason it looks like this. You see, for some reason, Disney Interactive had a habit of releasing the Wii version of their Disney games on PC. However, Cars 2 doesn't have a Wii version, it has a Wii port of the 360 version. Meaning Cars 2 is a port of the Wii port, which is a port of the Xbox 360 version. And you virgin Sonic Adventure DX fans thought you had it bad with its PC version. Hey, Sonic Adventure DX on Steam was confusing, at least all the ports are up ports. Cars 2 on PC is a down port, ported slightly higher ported to PC, wherein I'm gonna port a refund to this game. Don't get this on Steam, please, dear God. Oh God, don't. Get Cars 3 on console, even that is better than this. You can't even get all the DLC. I understand not getting the DLC on Wii because Wii, but Steam? Why does it have Xbox 360 screenshots? I can understand if it was the Xbox 360 version, but it ran at 144p. That, I think, wouldn't be too false advertising, but this? It's like if I made a YouTube channel, had a gray OC as my thumbnails, but you click on the video and it's just some dork. Wait, but you know what? Since I went on kind of a whim and talked about the PC version, sure, why not? Let's just go over the handheld version, starting with the Nintendo DS.
Cars 2.
First of all, you get absolutely none of the features you would get on the main version, like battle mode or anything else. You only get racing mode and some stealth missions. But a cool thing is that you have a proper story campaign this time. In the main version of the game, it was kind of a pseudo mini-sequel to the movie, but there was pretty much no plot or structure. But here it's a retelling of the film, and you do both races and stealth missions, which does break up the gameplay, so I do like that. The cutscenes, though, are kind of hilarious. They're just characters sitting on a backdrop, which is fine, but there was one scene with Mater where the proportion looked really off, so he looked huge. I won't really say much about the story. I just kind of wanted to note that in that one scene where Mater accidentally eats wasabi because he thinks it's pistachio ice cream in the movie, in the game, right after he eats the pistachio ice cream, he says, "Oh no, it's wasabi!" But he still says the line from the movie, "Don't eat the pistachio ice cream. It has turned." Like, Mater, I know you're dumb, but do you have short-term memory loss?
And can we talk about how if you don't get to the water in time, Mater dies?
Anyway, the game plays fine, nothing amazing or anything. The handling is just not as good, and the drift feels like a complete 90 degrees rather than just helping you turn easier. The races feel like you absolutely win or you absolutely lose. The only difficulty is the tracks themselves, which are usually fine, it's just whether you can handle the controls or not. Or the fact that I feel like the camera is just too far up Lightning's ass, so it's sometimes just hard to see anything. The stealth missions are, like I said, a pretty decent change of pace and are also fine, even if the AI for the guards can be kind of stupid. Like in this instance, there's a guard staring me down and not seeing me. And then there was this mission where Mater has to stay with a convoy to sneak up to a satellite, but for a full second, the convoy doesn't move. So if you start moving, you get out of the zone and get spotted, but you have to know as soon as it starts moving, because if you don't accelerate in time, you get left behind and spotted. And then I just quit playing when one of those searchlights just suddenly appeared and got me spotted. Like, how was I supposed to react to that? Also, I lost interest because every time you get caught, the sound effect makes it sound like your phone was ringing. Overall, Cars 2 on DS is a pretty fun distraction. Obviously, the console version is better and all, but it's not a complete waste of time. I could see someone enjoying it. Now for PSP, which, given the menu, looks like it's just a port of the Wii version. The game opens with the same opening cutscene. Holly Shiftwell is here just like the main version. Everything in the menu is pretty much the exact same. For some reason, Mater's on the left though, but all of the character animations are here, and I think all the voice lines are the same. So, was I wrong and this is a port of the Wii version to the handheld? Let's start a race then. Oh no! They made Cars 2 into an overhead racing game? Why? There's not a single good overhead racing game. Why would you turn an arguably hidden gem of a racing game into this? The camera angles are way too fancy and aren't in a good perspective for you to avoid obstacles. And they just put these things in the middle of the track. It's so bad, even the computer players crash into them often. But the weirder thing is that even though I spent the entire race crashing into obstacles and literally eating Luigi's ass multiple times during the race, I still somehow won. And even though I did, I hate this game. So in conclusion, do play Cars 2 on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Do not play the PC version. The DS version you can if you want, as it's pretty decent. And stay as far away from the PSP version as possible.
Something to consider.